This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Good day to you, one and all. I'm Lembit Öpik. This is Lembit Öpik live on Unprecedented TV on the Free Speech channel for the world. To be the mainstream media, we want to be the mainstream media. Get used to it. 2026 is the year we will do it, as long as we don't get buried under 1,000 meters of snow. Why do I say that, you may ask? It's because the ice man cometh. Britain and most of Europe has been blanketed in many places with record quantities of falling snow. Oh yes, hundreds, perhaps thousands of schools have closed in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. Children have been playing in the white stuff, and the roads have become treacherous, as well as airports, which have been closed or at least heavily cancelled in terms of their flights. Places like Schiphol in Amsterdam and Charles de Gaulle in Paris. Those airports are very well equipped, so you don't stop planes taking off lightly. It's the heavy snow that's done it. Why do I care about this? Because the climate catastrophists have been telling us for decades that things are warming up, things are hotting up. In fact, it's so bad that we're not going to see snow anymore. And I shall give you a quote from my favorite anti-hero in this whole thing, a man who invites ridicule every time it snows and discredits his old institution, the University of East Anglia, by saying that children simply won't know what snow is. It is that kind of preposterous commentary that causes me to devote an entire show to the weather. Britain's favorite subject, you could argue. Certainly mine when it snows. Well, my proposition here is that there is no climate crisis. There is no climate emergency. There is no significant global warming caused by human beings, and it's generally weather-wise and climate-wise business as usual. So do not adjust your set. More importantly, do not adjust your lifestyle. Have petrol, diesel, coal, gas to power your life, and stop worrying about the end of the world as we know it, because it's not going to melt. That's my opinion, but it's not just mine. In an unabashed dismantling and deconstruction of all this nonsense, I'm pleased to invite one of my fellow stablemates here on Unprecedented TV, which I hope you will like and subscribe to on YouTube. It's Brian Gregory, one of the co-presenters of Full Throttle. Brian, good to see you. I'm surprised you're not wearing a coat.
No, it's not that cold in the study here, but it's not exactly tropical, shall we say. Notice the t-shirt, polo shirt, and fleece.
Well, you've got 3 layers on. My kid loves talking about layers. She had 6 on the other day. Loves the snow, I have to say. Bottom line here. First of all, is there a climate emergency, Brian Gregory?
Not one we can do anything about.
What do you mean?
Well, if there is a climate emergency, you've got scientists, Russian particularly, Ukrainian scientists, saying that we may actually be on the edge of a grand solar minimum. And that would suggest the temperatures are actually going to drop, not rise.
Let's get to the point that the agent provocateur, the comment which I love to share, if we can get that up, thank you. 2000, say bye-bye to a white Christmas. This is from a list of failed predictions. Within a few years, winter snowfall will become a very rare and exciting event, according to Dr. David Viner, a senior research scientist at the Climatic Research Unit, CRU, of the University of East Anglia. It should say CRU. It should be Climatic Research Unit Department.
Climate rubbish unit.
Yeah, well, I just like the mnemonic that you get if you add department at the end. And he said, children just aren't. Try and keep up. The children just aren't going to know what snow is, he said. according to the Independent newspaper, which apparently didn't question it. Children just aren't going to know what snow is. That's what Dr. David Viner said in the year 2000. Do you think children know what snow is in Britain in 2026?
I think they do, and I imagine that also people across wide tracts of Canada and North America also know exactly what snow is.
Why is that?
Because they're having colossal amounts of it dumped on them at the moment.
So it's that snowing there as well?
Oh yeah, the weather in across the northwest of Canada, the northwest of the United States, is pretty damn cold at the moment. In fact, I think the eastern seaboard's cold as well.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So basically, it's not an isolated incident. Oh, it's just weather in Britain.
No.
Now, David Viner said children just aren't going to know what snow is. So he said the weather will indicate that there's a climate emergency. He made a prediction. So it's not us saying, oh, well, we can discount that. We don't need to. He said children aren't going to know what snow is. And he was citing that as one of the pieces of evidence that there's global warming 26 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been making predictions like this for over 50 years now, Lembit, and none of them have come true. Why anybody listens to them anymore, I have no idea, because they're complete charlatans.
I thought you were going to use a different word there. I'm glad you didn't go down that path. They are complete charlatans. So David Viner worked at University of East Anglia. Just remind us what the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia was exposed for doing. Don't get us.
The ClimateGate emails.
Yeah, that whole lot. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, trying to suppress any counter views to the prevailing sort of what I'll doomed narrative, and trying to stop climate realists from getting any airtime or any exposure in the media, when in fact the real scientists, even within the IPCC, the predictions that they're making on climate are nothing like as extreme as comes out of the political the summary for policymakers, which is tweaked by the politicians and their SPADs, special advisors, and doesn't bear any resemblance to the source material that's actually provided by IPCC scientists. So it's all theatricalized, I mean, like you've got the clown prince of climate catastrophe, Antonio Guterres, saying the seas are going to boil. Really?
Yeah, that's incredible when he said that. Absolutely. It's unbelievable that he said that. So let's have a look at one of the predictions that was made a long time ago. We've seen that one. Now let's get to the predictions if we can. So this is like children just aren't going to know what snow is, he said. And then I think we have put the prediction up. It's about the Ice Age, please. Can you put it up? There we are. Thank you. 1970, Ice Age coming by 2000. The Boston Globe reported in 1970 that we would be in an ice age within 30 years. Those predictions were later confirmed by space satellites, according to a report in The Guardian, a newspaper I haven't bought in decades. Telltale signs are everywhere, from the unexpected persistence and thickness of pack ice in the waters around Iceland to the southward migration of a warmth-loving creature like the armadillo from the Midwest, reported Time. Okay, that was my emphasis.
I spotted that.
Actually, they would actually be more like warmth-loving creature like the armadillo from the Midwest, reported Time. That's probably more accurate. This is rubbish. They started with an ice age. It's gone. What happened to that one?
And then very suddenly there was an about face, and we were going to be facing runaway, man-made, carbon dioxide driven global warming, which they then changed to climate change because, of course, when the temperatures go down, that can't be related to CO2. So we have to say it's climate change. And now everything's related to CO2. Everything and anything, ingrowing toenails, you name it. And CO2 is the cause. Unfortunately, the science doesn't actually support that proposition at all.
How could they say two completely opposite things? How can they say that? How can they say it and think no one's going to notice?
Well, if your objective is to create fear so you can manipulate people and their lifestyles and their behavior, then it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you can create fear, whether it's, we're all going to be boiled alive or we're all going to be frozen to death. you know, the objective is achieved if you can create sufficient hysterical response from the people who receive the messages.
And remember that thought in 1970, by the year 2000, going to be an ice age. Then in the year 2000, let's get that up again. Thank you. The year 2000, say bye-bye to a white Christmas. The climate catastrophist, Dr. David Viner. Do you know what he looks like, by the way? Do you know what he looks like?
I haven't seen, no.
We went to a lot of effort to find him. Here he is. There's Dr. David Viner. I don't know how long ago that was. Dr. David Viner, preaching about something. He's got a lanyard on, so he's telling people about something. Dr. David Viner, he's the guy who said, children just aren't going to know what a snow is. Go on.
I'm getting bored with this clip now. Lembit, can we move on to something else?
I'm never going to let anyone forget he said that. That was by the University of East Anglia. Is in Norwich. I checked. It's been snowing in Norwich. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. There's another example of this. You're going to keep seeing that because I have to say, somebody said, "What have you got? What have you got against David Viner?" Nothing. He put himself up as the poster boy for a ridiculous claim. That's why I do it, and it shows. And by the way, if you're getting chat on this, you can do that at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. You can do it on X, wherever you want to do it. Just do make your comments. Maybe if you're Dr. David Viner, I'll give you an entire show to explain why you said it. The reason I do that is because they mix up weather and climate. It's them, it's they who claim that this is proof that there's a global warming phase. You and I both know that weather is what happens day to day. Climate is what happens across many years. But they made this rod for their own back. Now they're not the only ones. Who's this? Do you think?
Oh, Rowlett, isn't it? Is it Rowlett?
Yeah. Justin Rowlett, BBC Panorama documentary about global warming presented by climate editor Justin Rowlett was full of errors. He was in trouble. He was in trouble for that. And that was some years ago now. But the thing was absolutely full of errors as far as I remember. And basically, I don't know what this is. What's this? Get rid of it. There we are. Thank you. Justin Rowlett pictured made a number of false claims and internal investigations by the broadcaster found. And he's still in his job, but that's the problem with these people. They don't really suffer at all for it. He said something so ridiculous recently that I put something out on X. And I'm sure because of my X, who's got tens of thousands, maybe even over 100,000 hits, they hurriedly had to retract the original report and bring him in. It was fairly obvious to me that something really embarrassing had happened. But here's something he said. I think this is something from him. Yeah, I'm sure this is one of his. Yeah. It's just ridiculous, really. And he says here, he reports this stuff. The UK should be prepared to cope with weather extremes as a result of at least 2 Celsius of warming by 2050. Independent climate advisors said the reason I put this up is because he's writing, as a fact, as the BBC person, CO2 is the gas mainly responsible for human-caused climate change.
But that's not even true.
When fossil fuels are burnt, as well as other activities.
But it's not even true because the major global warming gas is water vapor.
Yeah.
Carbon dioxide's only about maybe 25% of the global warming effect. At least 75% is due to water vapor.
I would say it's less. CO2 is even less effective. But for human-caused climate change, this is quite clearly indicating that humans are responsible for climate change. Now, once again, Justin Rowlett, if you're not claiming that human beings are mainly responsible for climate change, then I will give you a right to reply. But he is relentlessly saying that there's a climate crisis and saying pretty much that it's us. This is one reason the BBC is in so much trouble. They've got something called BBC Verify, but they come out with utter trash like this. Human beings are not mainly responsible for climate change. You must be making some difference, but it's so little, I think it's barely measurable. Yeah.
Well, and certainly the levels of CO2, atmospheric CO2 we're at the moment, and this has been shown by Happer and Weingarten, that actually if we doubled the current amount of CO2, 400 parts per million volume, to say 800, the maximum difference that would make is about 3 watts per square meter, which is less than 1% of the typical average solar irradiance energy that we receive. So it would make a tiny difference to the climate. And when you actually look at the difference in absorption spectra at 400 parts per million volume of carbon dioxide and 800, they're virtually superimposable. So the difference that they're going to make is minor, because we've reached the point where carbon dioxide absorption has virtually plateaued out completely. You can add as much more as you want, and it won't make any difference.
So how have they got away with it for so long? Some other stuff I want to cover as well, but
nobody stopped them, and nobody said this is complete and utter rubbish. And what is happening now is that some of the real seminal scientists like Richard Lindzen, Steve Koonin, John Clauser, these are all Nobel laureates, by the way, are all saying this is complete rubbish. And these are eminent scientists who really understand climate science and climate physics, but they're not getting the coverage, the airtime. We'll have to get them on here and let them talk.
Totally agree. Stay with us. That's Brian Gregory. We'll come back to him in a minute, who also, by the way, represents the Alliance for British Drivers, very sensible organisation. But I want to remind you, we have a great series, which is also about truth being told, sharing the headlines that you may have missed. That's with Tim Scott, who's the Supremo at the Freedom Association, and he has Tim Scott on cancel. That's Tim Scott Uncancelled, Unmissable. You can see it in the archive as well. Like and subscribe, please, at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. If you can't find it straight away, put my name in, Lembit, Lembit, like it's spelt on the screen there. Lembit, Unprecedented TV. You'll find us straight away. Hundreds of shows there. Back to Brian Gregory. Brian, we're talking about the climate catastrophe that isn't. Let's just look one of the BBC headlines, if we can get that up. Yeah, here's one of them. How climate change worsens, heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and floods. Problem with that one, they haven't mentioned how it worsens blizzards, which is what we've got at the moment. Why haven't they mentioned it, I wonder?
Well, basically because they can't do both things, can only do one set. And if it is causing monotonic warming, then it can't be causing more cold climate conditions. It's impossible, because if the thing that drives weather systems is the temperature differential between the poles and the equator. And if the temperature at the poles increases, that reduces the temperature differential and reduces the onset of extreme weather.
Hang on, say that in simple terms that somebody who isn't interested in climatology will understand.
What drives climate systems on this planet is the temperature differential between the equator and the polar regions. And if that difference decreases, then the intensity of, or the frequency and intensity of extreme weather decreases.
So what you're saying is, if the poles get warmer, then there'll be less extreme weather.
Yes. And if they get,
but it's like a battery, which is a bit discharged. There's less difference between one end and the other, so you get less power. Yeah.
Absolutely, and anybody who understands climatology will tell you that, that actually, if we're in a situation where the climate is warming, then that is good, because the other thing that seems to be completely forgotten is that the planet, our planet, is sitting in interplanetary space, and that the temperature of interplanetary space is minus 270 degrees Celsius. So any extra energy that the Earth receives is soon whipped out into interplanetary space, which is 270 degrees Celsius below the temperature of the Earth if it was zero. And actually it isn't zero, it's about 15. So it's 285 degrees difference of temperature. So the hotter the Earth gets, the more energy is drawn out from the terrestrial ecosystem by interplanetary space. So there's no question of Earth ever overheating, because the extra energy is going to get sucked out as it gets hotter.
I would say they're basically saying the opposite of what's happening.
Am I?
No. They are saying the opposite of what's happening. Yes. They're saying that the poles are warming up, therefore there's more weather. But you're saying the poles are warming up.
It's complete and absolute opposite. It's an utter inversion of how climatology and climate on this planet works. It's nonsense. which just fits in entirely with everything they've been saying for the last 50 years. That was nonsense as well.
What do you say to those self-pronounced climatologists, some of whom have climatology degrees, who say, you're wrong, I'm a professional climatologist, you have no climate qualification at all?
My response to that is, as an Oxford University chemist, is go and learn some bloody science.
I didn't know that. You're actually a proper Oxford graduate.
Well, yes, yeah, I graduated in natural sciences from the University of Oxford in 1976.
Oh yeah, that was before the emergency. You wouldn't know anything about that.
Well, it was starting then. They were already in the early phases of flipping from snowball Earth to microwave oven Earth, I guess is what they're saying now.
Let's look at one case study, which I have to admit I've looked at. It's the polar bear catastrophe. I first learned about it from this. Yeah, Susan Crockford. That's right, Susan J. Crockford. The polar bear catastrophe had never happened. That book, that's the cover of the book. It's a brilliant book.
Yeah.
It basically explains how she was no expert in polar bears. She took an interest in the fact polar bears were dying out. She discovered that they weren't. In fact, they were thriving. That the population is higher now than it was for about 60 years.
Oh, yeah, it's getting to the point now where they're talking about culling them because they're becoming a danger to the Inuits in some parts of North America, isn't it?
Well, that's right. The reason why they've got that problem is because, as you say, they live off seals, and if they can get in the water because the ice is thin, as far as I understand it, that's pretty happy days for them. But they're really not concerned. Another one here. Yeah, there's another classic line. Absolutely sums it up. There's another headliner. But you actually have to dig around to find these. But why aren't polar bears going extinct like the experts said they would? Climate cultists are blaming accelerated evolution, which is possibly the most laughable.
Oh my God!
I heard that. And the British Broadcasting Corporation, paid for by British taxpayers, the ones who are still buying licenses, they were taking it seriously. Oh, evolution accelerated. That's why they're surviving. It was utter, total trash, unquestioned by the interviewer. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is the facts are failing them. So rather than changing their theory, they're trying to force fit the facts into it.
Yeah. And all of this stuff about extreme weather, when you actually dig down, even the IPCC's own studies show that there's no evidence that changes in climate or in carbon dioxide levels having any effect on the frequency of extreme weather. In fact, if anything, extreme weather, as I said a few minutes ago, extreme weather events are actually becoming less frequent, and the number of people who are losing their lives through climate events has absolutely collapsed. Very, very small numbers of people are affected nowadays in terms of deaths compared with the past, because buildings are being built out of more substantial materials as living standards go up.
I'm going to indulge us with just one chart. One chart. Just one chart. Don't adjust the set. And I want you to explain it. What's this telling us?
Well,
and you've got up to 1 minute. That's all. Then we go back to other
basically, stuff. We're showing the temperature record and the carbon dioxide record from minus 600 million years ago through to today. And you can see that there's a trend in carbon dioxide, which is the bottom graph, which is a sort of an asymptotic decline. And the temperature record is going actually in roughly the same direction. But the thing is, when you actually look at the timing of it, there are, out of the last 500 million years, 42% of the time, the carbon dioxide and the temperature measurements were going in opposite directions, right? So there's no way that one can be driving the other. I mean, you can see, for example, in the Karoo Ice Age, in the middle of the top chart, you can see that the temperature is going up and down, and the carbon dioxide level has essentially been a plateau. So how can you have that happening if the carbon dioxide level and the carbon dioxide level is supposed to drive the temperature? How can you get that sawtooth pattern and then the massive rise after the end of the Karoo Ice Age with the CO2 level staying basically similar? The timings are all wrong.
There's another fact here. for weird reasons. I think this is one of the weird things in science and physics. When water's cold, it can suck up more carbon dioxide. When it's
Correct.
warm, it can suck
Yeah.
up less. And that's
Yeah.
why a really cold can of Coke won't fizz when you open it, but a hot can of Coke will fizz and go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Yeah, it's Henry's law, basically. Henry's law.
Yeah, it's called Henry's law. I didn't want to get too technical, but
No.
that would suggest that when the oceans are cold and we're in an ice age, it sucks up carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide isn't making it cold. The cold is making it less carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
That must have some effect like that. I mean, those two, I have to say, those two charts look like there's some correlation, but I just don't believe. I just don't believe that there's a proper one. I don't think that the carbon dioxide can realistically be driving.
No, it's not. It's the other way around. In shorter term situations, as you just mentioned, if the global temperature goes down due to external forcing, nothing to do with carbon dioxide, then as the temperature goes down, the solubility of carbon dioxide in seawater from the atmosphere is increased. So there will be a tendency for carbon dioxide to leave the atmosphere and be sucked into the oceans. And then when the temperatures turn around, and the temperatures they're what changes first, not the carbon dioxide level. When the global climate cycle turns around, then and the temperatures go back up again, then carbon dioxide will come out of the oceans and go back into the atmosphere, but always in over short periods. The coefficient between atmospheric CO2, partition coefficient between atmospheric CO2 and oceanic CO2 is about 1 to 50.
Okay,
so
okay, that's too technical.
50 times more carbon dioxide in the oceans than in the atmosphere all the time, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's loads more carbon dioxide in the ocean than in the air. That we know. Let's look at the weather then. And we're talking weather. UK weather, freezing return to work for millions as Arctic blast triggers amber snow alerts. Temperatures in London dip as low as -5 overnight into Monday morning. As the Met Office warns that cold conditions will bring a range of wintry hazards over the next few days. They don't even dare mention global warming there. And here's another one. Thousands stranded in Paris and Amsterdam and multiple deaths as Arctic blast sweeps Europe. Major weather-related disruptions. Storm Goretti hits the Atlantic coast. Now, that's an interesting thing. Multiple deaths because cold kills far more people than warm.
Yeah. The fact that I think it's about 10 to 1. When you actually look at the numbers of people who die from extreme temperatures, high or low, it's about 10 times as many die from extreme low temperatures as from extreme high temperatures.
Well, that's a depressing statistic. So actually, it's the cold we need to fear rather than the
absolutely
warm.
Cold is our enemy.
And Europe, there's all kinds of videos, and they're kind of quite dramatic actually, of the storms, and the news loves it. And they're not talking about climate change. They're talking about global warming. If it was hot, they'd be saying, "Oh, this is the result of climate emergency. This is carbon dioxide." But they don't mention it at all. They don't say because of carbon dioxide. They don't know how to explain it because it's complicated. Because they've been peddling this nonsense.
Yeah.
But using weather, which is wrong. They've been peddling this nonsense that all of it's happening because of carbon dioxide increases. And then the obvious question, and I'm asking you, the viewers, to ask your politicians to explain, how can it be so cold if carbon dioxide is going up? They won't know the answer, by the way, the politicians.
If the assumption that carbon dioxide is driving temperatures is correct, which it isn't.
Yeah, that's right. But they won't know the answer to that.
No.
All over Europe, we've got record snow in various places. La Rochelle, I think, was one of them.
And in general, the Europeans are much better set up for dealing with adverse weather than we are.
Yeah, and I think that's probably Charles de Gaulle there.
Yeah,
and it's a crisis. And this is the thing that really it entertains me and bugs me at the same time. They have one person, it's really bad, but they do the same about climate change. It's got to be climate change, isn't it? And I'm sure there's at least one article. I haven't bothered looking for it because it'll be complete rubbish. But basically, someone somewhere will be saying this is because of global warming. But they can't say that. It's climate change now. Yes. Climate change. And you got all these emergency spokespeople. That's Minister of Transport in France. Oh, it's cold. I'm sure he's saying I'll tell you why, mate. Because it's winter, Monsieur Tabardado, or whatever you're called. And extreme winter spell creates travel chaos in Europe. Yeah, but this is the thing. It is actually particularly cold at the moment. That's the thing.
Yes.
Cold weather snap. Yeah, it could be that in the longer term now we're heading into that cooling phase. I've long time believed we're heading there. And they love the visuals, and they haven't got any global warming visuals, so they go for that.
Yeah.
UK weather, is it unusual?
It's probably a bit colder than we would normally expect. But I mean, it's not unusual for us to get temperatures below zero, -5, -6 or something. Certainly, the further north you go up into Scotland and whatnot, it's pretty commonplace in the winter to get temperatures -12, -14 up in the Scottish Highlands. So this is just more of the same with slight knobs on because of current weather conditions, and it is basically weather conditions. It's not climate change; it's just weather change.
They did actually have -12 somewhere in Norfolk. I think it was Norfolk, near Norwich, University of East Anglia, near Norwich.
Oh, that place where the children aren't going to know what snow is. That place, you mean?
Are you looking for this quote here?
No.
Children aren't going to know what snow is, said Dr. David. Yeah, did you miss the quote? Yeah, that's the one I think you might be talking about.
I didn't miss it.
I got a couple of other slides to show you afterwards, just before we finish. But then close to home, if you're watching this live, these are very recent shots, and that's quite a lot of snow there. They're making it look really interesting. And in Scotland and in the North Midlands, there's so much snow. I think it looks great. My kids absolutely love it. They think it's fantastic. They know what snow is. I actually asked my 8-year-old, do you know what snow is? She said, it's frozen ice in a crystalline form. So she knows what snow is. And she took it very literally. I said, yes, would have been enough, but carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I wonder how Sadiq Khan's fleet of electric buses is going on in this weather in London.
Why is that a problem? I know the answer, but share it with our viewers.
Yeah, because the range under these conditions of the electric buses, particularly with the heating on and the lights on in the evenings and whatnot, it's going to be absolutely pathetic.
I was in an electric taxi. It was a very, very cold day a month or two ago, almost frosty. And it was freezing. And I realized he wasn't putting the heating on because he wanted to save his battery. It was absolutely freezing.
Yeah.
Now, one of the problems they've got, of course, is you've got all the electric cars. If there's an accident on the motorway, which is quite possible with slippy conditions, then if you keep your heater on and you're stuck there for 2 or 3 hours,
drain your battery.
Yeah, you can flatten your battery.
Yeah.
So that's got to be happening. It's got to be happening.
Yeah.
These are great pictures, by the way.
They are.
But as I say, my kids absolutely love it. They're hoping it's going to be really snowy a number of times this winter.
But I mean, it's interesting there that that front-wheel drive car, you could see the thing crabbing about all over the place because it couldn't get any traction. And of course, worse if it's only rear-wheel drive.
I grew up learning in an old-fashioned Volvo 244 DL. It had rear-wheel drive, and that rear-wheel drive meant that it was okay in the snow. And of course, that was when the Volvos were truly Swedish productions, truly ethnic, and Scandinavian, and I think Scandinavian.
Yeah, but they're Chinese owned now, aren't they? Volvo and Polestar are Chinese owned.
Maybe I think the headquarters of Volvo is still technically up in I think it's in Gothenburg. but when I learned in that Volvo in the early 80s, it was relatively straightforward to drive in the snow. I bet you they had the rear wheel drive because of Swedish winters. But I think it looks gorgeous. What's so funny, though, it's so funny, is the absolute trash that we've been told for so long. And so the question for you is, what's your advice to those who still think there could be a climate emergency?
The one I gave earlier, go and look at the science. Don't listen to the mainstream media and the climate shills, climate research unit, people like that, because their salaries depend on peddling this trash so that they get loads of grants and they can continue operating. Go and research the actual science and look at the evidence provided by people like William Happer, William Weingarten, Michael Schellenberger. Patrick Moore, for example, is an
ex-astronomer. That's the guy who set up Greenpeace.
Exactly. He's an ex-founder member of Greenpeace, but he's recanted all that now. And as far as he's concerned, he said carbon dioxide is our friend. It's plant food, and of course, the more plant food there is, the more animals have to eat, apart from each other. You know, the carnivorous ones. But basically, the more plant food there is, there's food for herbivores, which are then a source of food for carnivores or omnivores. So carbon dioxide is our friend, and without it, we'd all be dead.
And so is snow. Snow's our friend when we're children, because when we have children.
Yeah, it's great on Christmas cards, but that's the only place I like to see it, really.
I like the snow, though. It's very easy to fall. When you get the thaw and the freeze, and you get that black ice.
Yeah,
it's so
exactly.
Dangerous. And it's just inevitable. You're going to end up sliding, and it's just maybe a little bit of chance if you don't end up in a light smash.
Yeah. But of course, the difference here between, say, here and Scandinavia is that they actually put winter tires on their cars from the end of October, and in the areas outside the towns, they have studded winter tires. Yeah. And I've driven a studded Skoda with studded winter tires on in Finland, and it makes a hell of a difference. It knackers the roads, of course, because the studs dig into the tarmac, but it's a lot easier to drive with those studded tires.
There's somebody who clearly doesn't have winter tires.
No.
But I used to live. I lived off a main road in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where I grew up, and it wasn't a very big incline. But I remember standing there for about half an hour once, watching the cars just almost getting stuck like that.
Like that, exactly.
Just like that, because it was all slushy. It was just a little slushy. Well, that's very good. I want to finish with one last general knowledge test. Right.
Okay.
Right. Do you know who that is? Any guesses? Have a guess. Involved. I'll give you a clue. Involved in commentary about climate. I'll give you a second clue. We've mentioned him in the past. Do you know?
No, I don't recognize him.
That's Dr. David Viner who said this.
Children
just aren't going to know what snow is.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. David Viner. Now you know what he looks like or looked like.
Right.
And lest we forget, this is the reason I do this, serious point, is because I don't want anyone to be able to sweep these nonsense comments under the carpet. The climate catastrophists who brought you impending ice age doom in the 70s had shifted 180 degrees to global warming in the noughties, and now they want the best of both worlds, global boiling and global freezing, all because of human-generated carbon dioxide. What a load of tosh. As we've called this show today, the snow is burying global warming, or at least the claims. Tell us briefly about your, first of all, your organisation, the Alliance of British Drivers.
Okay, well, the Alliance of British Drivers, we started off in the early 1990s, and we were concerned about the likely misuse of speed camera technology to raise revenue, which has, turned out to happen in spades. But increasingly, we've become involved in realising that that was the start of the sort of green blob agenda, because that was the way in through safety. So safety is, everything has to be done to make people completely and utterly safe. In other words, you can't be allowed to take any risks, which basically means you can't be allowed to do anything at all, because even getting out of bed is a risk.
Yeah.
And it's just intensified.
I speak. It's get a better bed.
Yeah.
Get a better bed and just stay there.
Yeah.
That's you just hibernate. Go to bed in November. Get up in February.
It's another variant of the don't go out of the cave because you might be eaten by the saber-toothed tiger sort of approach, isn't it?
It is.
Ultimately, we're an animal that thrives on an element of risk. I mean, you don't speculate, you don't accumulate, and we have taken risks in trying to manage our interaction with our environment, rather than let it overwhelm us, because if we hadn't done, then we would all died of exposure, you know?
Well, thank you. And tell us about your show.
Well, we have myself and Paul Naylor, who is the communications director of the Alliance of British Drivers, me as policy director. We have this program called Full Throttle on Unprecedented TV, where we interview lots of interesting people, politicians, scientists, climate activists, and get their opinions and allow them to express those opinions so that you can hear the alternative side of the coin than the what I'll doomed merchants.
Well, thank you so much. That is all for this time. I want to leave you with one concluding thought. But by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to Unprecedented TV on YouTube, and that is easy to find. Put my name in if you can't find it any other way. Lembit, Lembit, like on the screen there. Unprecedented TV. Please like, please subscribe. You really help us a lot when you do that. And of course, do follow me next and get involved in the chat. We've been very busy today, but I'll try and get back to some of the comments after the show. I want to leave you with a concluding thought, Brian.
Oh, just don't make it the Viner comment again.
Children just aren't going to know what snow is. Ha, 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 ha.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages.